You're listening to Curious Cat, the podcast that examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. I'm your host, Jennifer Holtz. Join me every week as I explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit. Welcome to Curious Cat. With a recent video, and I'm not sure if it's fake or real, to be honest, but it's going viral on socials. It's of a massive mythic bird. I had to know more about Thunderbirds. When I was a kid, we called the hydroplanes that raced on the Columbia River Thunderbirds for their massive roar and crazy wake. There were hotels in the area named Thunderbird Lodge in Washington State too. And I grew up a Seahawks fan whose logo is a riff and a nod to the mighty Thunderbird as depicted on Northwest tribe totems. The Thunderbird means something different to each tribe, but I found out it means something different for each tribe member. And some secrets of the Thunderbird aren't meant for the uninitiated ears. Let's get into it. Instead of starting with my normal Thunderbird 101, I thought I would use the words that were written down in the 1800s in a book that was taken directly from the Tillamook Indians at the time, and it was about the Thunderbird. This is a Tillamook legend as recorded by Fans Bowes in 1898. His book was titled Traditions of the Tillamook Indians. By the way, the Tillamook tribe is located in Oregon, and imagine living in a far-off land and reading the following story. Once upon a time, there was a man who lived at Slab Creek. One day, he went up the creek to spear salmon. When he started out, the sun was shining, but soon dark clouds came up and it began to thunder and to rain. Then it cleared up again, but soon a new shower came on, and he was unable to secure a single fish. He became angry and said, "What is that great thing that always darkens the water and prevents me from seeing the fish?" He went on and came to a tall spruce tree in which a large hole had been burned by lightning. He looked into it and discovered a little boy. When he looked closer, he saw the boy coming out. As soon as he had stepped out of the hole, he began to grow and soon reached a height taller than the spruce tree itself. His skin was covered with feathers. Then he said, "Now you see how tall I am. Don't look at me. I'm the one that you have scolded." Then the speaker, who was no other than the Thunderer, took the man's salmon spear and blanket. He leaned the spear against the tree and hung the blanket onto it. He took the man under his armpits and flew with him towards the sky. When they reached a considerable height, the man almost fell from under the Thunderer's armpits, and the ladder descended again and allowed him to regain his strength. He thought, "Where shall I put him in order to prevent his falling down?" He said, "When we reach a great height, close your eyes so that the strong wind which prevails up there will do you no harm." Then he flew up again and ascended in large circles. Each flapping of his wings was a peal of thunder, and when the noise ceased, the man knew that they had arrived at the Thunderer's home, and he opened his eyes. On the following day, the Thunderer told him to go and catch salmon. The man went to the beach but did not see any salmon, while many whales were swimming about. Then he went back to the house and said, "I do not see any salmon, but many whales are swimming around." "Those are the fish I was speaking of," replied the Thunderer. "They are our food. Catch a few. The man replied, "They are too large and I cannot catch them." They went out together, and the man saw that the people were catching whales in the same way as he was accustomed to catching salmon. The Thunderer told him to stand aside as he himself was preparing to catch whales. He caught the largest one and carried it up to the large cave, which was nearby, and when he had deposited it there, the whale flapped its tail and jumped about, violently shaking the mountain so that it was impossible to stand upon it. One day, the man went up the river and saw many fish swimming there. He thought, "I am tired of whale meat and wish I could have some fish." He went back to the house and spoke to the Thunderer. "Grandfather, I have found many fish and I want to catch them." He made a fish spear, which he showed to the Thunderer. The latter looked at it but found it so small that he was hardly able to feel it. It slipped under his fingernail and he was unable to find it again. The man said, "How large are your nails? They are just like the crack of a log." And the old grandfather laughed. The man made a new spear and went fishing salmon. Before he went, the old man said, "Don't catch more than you are able to eat. You may only take 4 or 5. "I cannot even eat one." Then the grandfather laughed and said, "If I should eat 100, I should not have enough." The man went out, caught one salmon, and brought it home. He was going to split it, but was unable to find a knife small enough for cutting the fish. Then the Thunderer split a rock, as he thought, into very small pieces, but the smallest of these was so large that the man was unable to lift it. Then the Thunderer broke it into still smaller pieces and said this, "I fear I have spoiled it, for it has become dust so fine that I cannot take hold." The man went out, but even then the smallest piece was so large that he was unable to lift it. After the Thunderer had broken it again, and the man had selected the smallest piece, he said, "It is still too large, but I think I must try to make use of it." Then the Thunderer told him how to cut the fish. He followed his commands and cut the fish as the people of the Thunderer were accustomed to do. He roasted it and ate it, but was unable to eat it all. Then his grandfather laughed and said, "Put it aside and go to sleep. When you awake, you will be able to eat more." When the man awoke and wanted to continue to eat the fish, it was gone. It had returned to the river from which he had taken it. He took his spear and went down the river to catch another salmon. There he saw one half of a fish swimming about. It was the one he had been eating. He caught it, roasted it, and finished eating it. The next day he caught another fish, and when he had eaten half of it, went to sleep. He tied the rest to the pole in order to prevent it returning to the sea. But when he awoke, he found it had returned to the river. He had burned one side of the head of this salmon, and the next day on going to the river, he saw the same salmon swimming about. It had taken some grass into its mouth and covered one side of its face, as it was ashamed to show how badly it was burned. The Thunderer said, "Don't burn the salmon when you roast them, for they do not like that. They might take revenge upon you." The next day the Thunderer again went whaling, and the man asked him to be allowed to accompany him, as he wished to witness the spectacle. The Thunderer granted his request, but when he came home in the evening, he found that the man was badly hurt. He had been unable to stand on his feet when the whale was shaking the mountain, and was hurt by falling trees and stones. But on the following day he asked once more to be allowed to accompany the Thunderer. He tied himself to a tree, but when the Thunderer came back in the evening to fetch him, he found him again badly hurt, as he had been knocked about by the swinging trees. Meanwhile, the relatives of the man had been searching for him for over a year. They had gone up Slab Creek, where they found his spear and blanket leaning against a large spruce tree. They did not know what had become of him. They believed him to be dead, and his wife mourned for him. One day, while he was staying with the Thunderer, he thought of his wives and children and longed to return. He said to himself, "Oh, my children, are you still alive? There is no one to provide for you, and I am afraid you are dead." The Thunderer knew his thoughts and said, "Do not worry, your wives are quite well. One of them has married again. I will take you back tomorrow." What the Thunderer called the next day was actually the next year. The following day, he took him under his armpits and put him back at the foot of the spruce tree from where he had taken him and then flew back home. The man believed that he had been away only 4 days, but it had been 4 years. He did not go to his house but stayed in the woods nearby. There, his son found him. He asked the boy, "Who are you? Is your father at home?" The boy replied, believing him to be a stranger, "No, I have no father. He was lost 4 years ago." For a long time they looked for him, and finally they found his clothes and his salmon spear. Then the man said, "I am your father. The Thunderer took me up to the sky, and I have returned." Then he inquired after his wives, and the boy replied, "Mother is well, and all my brothers have grown up and are also well. Your other wife has married again, but mother remained true to you." Then the man sent him to call his wife. The boy ran home and said, "Mother, father is in the woods." His mother did not believe him and whipped him for speaking about his father. Then the boy went out crying. He said to his father, "Mother did not believe me." The man gave him a piece of whale meat and said, "Take this to your mother. I brought it from where I have been." The boy obeyed and took the whale meat to his father, who said, "I will go with you, but if he is not your father, I shall beat you." She accompanied her son and found her husband. He returned with her into the house, and she invited the whole tribe. The man danced and became a great shaman. For 10 days he danced, and the people feasted. Then he told them where he had been and what he had seen, and said that whenever they wanted to have a whale, he would get one. After some time, the Thunderer came back and took him up once more, and he stayed for 10 years with him. Then he came home and lived with his people. One day he went elk hunting and came to a small lake where he found a small canoe. When crossing the lake, he heard a voice calling him from out of the water, and on looking down, he saw a hole in the bottom and a human being in it which called him. He jumped overboard, went to the bottom of the lake, and stayed with the supernatural being for 10 years. Then the latter sent him out in the company of a beaver to gather some skunk cabbage. They followed a trail and came to a parting of the roads. The man did not know where they were going. Then the beaver asked him, "Do you know where we are going? This trail is Nestucca River, which we are now descending." They followed the trail to its end, where they found a large cave, from which the man emerged to the open air, while the beaver returned to the lake. At the entrance of the cave, the man flung down 2 skunk cabbages which he had found and ascended the mountain. Ever since that time, 2 stems of skunk cabbage have been growing at the entrance of the cave. His 2 sons found him on the summit of the rock. They took him home and invited the whole tribe. He danced and became the greatest shaman among his people. When a person died, he was able to bring back his soul and restore him to life. Here are some Thunderbird basics, thanks to Daniel Horowitz, who writes this: "The Thunderbird is a significant mythological creature in various American Indian cultures, particularly among the tribes in the Midwest, Great Plains, and Northeastern regions, such as the Sioux, Algonquin, Arapaho, Gros Ventre, and Potawatomi. Often depicted as a giant bird capable of carrying immense weight, the Thunderbird symbolizes both natural power and supernatural abilities. In many traditions, it is associated with thunder and storms, believed to create thunder by flapping its wings and lightning by shooting from its beak. The Thunderbird's nature varies among tribes. For instance, the Gros Ventre view it as a giver of sacred gifts, while the Arapaho associate it with summer, contrasting it with winter being represented by the white owl. The creature is also seen as a dual figure, both benevolent benevolent and malevolent, reflecting a complex relationship with nature and humanity. In the Great Plains tradition, it's referred to as Wakinya, meaning winged one, and is often represented in various colors symbolizing different wind directions. The Thunderbird embodies themes of creation and destruction, showing its trickster nature, where it can bring rain but also unleash storms, further underscoring its vital role in the mythology of many American Indian tribes. I found more from EBSCO. The Thunderbird is a mythological creature that appears through many different incarnations of American Indian lore. Its appearance is especially prominent in tribes in the Midwest, and we talked about that. The Thunderbird is typically portrayed as a colossal colored bird that, according to the Northwestern tradition, is so big it could carry a whale in its talons, like we learned with the Tillamook story. And again, the Tillamook, which they don't mention the Pacific Northwest, but the Tillamook tribe was telling that story, and they were in Oregon area. Many traditions, they say, also portray the Thunderbird as the creator of the sound of thunder. In traditions associated with the Great Plains, the Thunderbird is a powerful but very real creature that can be seen by human eyes. In other traditions, though, the Thunderbird is an ephemeral force of nature and capable of supernatural abilities. For example, in the lore of the Gros Ventre tribe, the Thunderbird is referred to as Baha and is believed to have given the sacred pipe to the people of every tribe. In contrast, the Arapaho of the Great Plains believe that the Thunderbird represents the summer season. As a prominent figure in American Indian mythology, manifestations of the Thunderbird can be sorted into two categories, they write. The first, a benevolent, if not somewhat malicious spirit of nature, has varied portrayals among the tribes of pre-colonial North America. This version of the Thunderbird has been passed down in oral traditions and is also featured prominently in songs and art. This is perhaps best shown in the Algonquin tradition, where the Thunderbird is the ruler of the upper world, while the great horned serpent, another mythological creature in American Indian mythology, is the ruler of the underworld. In this tradition, the Thunderbird is regularly at war with the great horned serpent, who lives underwater. The Thunderbird can be seen in Algonquin art shooting lightning from its beak at creatures under control of the great horned serpent and creating thunder by flapping its wings. As a mythological creature, the Thunderbird is depicted with its wings stretched out as in flight, with a large hooked beak and decorated in the symbolic style of the particular tribe. In the second category, Great Plains tribes depict the Thunderbird as a corporeal and ultimately killable creature. A Comanche story about the Thunderbird told of a hunter that shot down a bird so large he feared it and suspected it might be a Thunderbird. He got the medicine man to look at the bird with him, but when they returned, the bird had disappeared. The hunter was then killed by the lightning of a storm sent by the Thunderbird. This story shows that the Thunderbird was not always thought of as purely mythological, although it may be that the Great Plains tribes distinguish between mortal and spirit versions of the Thunderbird. As a cross-cultural figure of many different tribes of American Indians, the Thunderbird also has differing depictions in the art of the Great Plains tribes and many of the other tribes. In the Great Plains, the Thunderbird is often referred to as Wakinya. Derived from the Dakota language, this means winged one, although Wakinya has also been portrayed in art as possessing a sacred power. There are many depictions of the Thunderbird engulfed in deep clouds that look like a sort of fog, which prevents it from being seen entirely. In some depictions, the Thunderbird is a challenger of threats to the American Indians at large, both of a natural and spiritual nature, but in other depictions, it can be seen killing American Indians or other animals who get in the way. In the Great Plains tradition, the Thunderbird can be represented as one of four colors: red, blue, green, and yellow. According to Great Plains tradition, this represents the four directions of the wind. Alternatively, the Thunderbird symbol in traditions outside of the Great Plains is a red zigzag, which looks very similar to a lightning bolt. According to this tradition, there are both good and bad Thunderbirds, with both forms of the Thunderbird being shown in art fighting each other. These Thunderbirds are depicted in totem poles and other symbolic artifacts. Outside of the Great Plains, the Thunderbird is said to have a dual nature and be both a creator and a destroyer. The Thunderbird brought the rain, but it also caused destructive storms. It battled whales and turned people to stone. This is thought to show the Thunderbird as a sort of trickster figure recurrent in many mythologies, except in this case, the Thunderbird causes harm due more to its primordial nature than actual malice. The Thunderbird overall is a complex figure that has no set mythology in American Indian lore, aside from its great nature and association with thunder and lightning. Its depiction and enduring resonance through many American Indian tribes and beyond into the modern day is a testament to its strength as a cross-cultural figure. Audubon adds this: also known as thunderers or thunder beings, the bird-like spirit's particular attributes and stories can vary by tribe and even family line. Bridget Alex writes this for Audubon magazine: Thunderbirds permeate the spiritual world of widespread native groups, including the Ojibwa of the Great Lakes region, Tlingit of the Pacific Northwest, Pawnee of the Plains, and about 24 other tribes. A database of ethnographic records collected by anthropologists included roughly 500 references to Thunderbirds in documents describing native cultures of the Americas. Sometimes translated as thunderers or thunder beings, the spirit's particular attributes and stories vary by tribe and even family line. But certain qualities transcend cultures. Thunderbirds are generally depicted as birds of prey or avian-human hybrids, such as a person with a beak and wings. Some images present the figure chest forward, head in profile, and tail feathers parted, as if they were human legs. Oh my God! I just watched on YouTube, and I will link it in the show notes. One of my favorite creators, Desert Drifter, who was killed in an accident after he was exploring the desert in January 2025. He actually died in March 2025 after a battle. I mean, they couldn't resuscitate him. But his widow and his father and his best friend, they got into the car that was badly smashed to retrieve Andrew, the Desert Drifter's cameras from that very last venture into the desert. And I was watching part 1 of the 2 parts they're going to publish. And they've only published the first part 1, so I'll link it in the show notes. I'm saying this because he came to an area. Human beings hadn't been to this area in Lord knows how many years. And he looked at these pictographs, and one of them, it almost looked like a fish standing upright, but like a man, and it had this forked tail kind of legs. So when this description is talking about the thunder beings with the split feathers that were like human legs, I think it was a thunder being that was being portrayed. So give that video a look. And I still miss Andrew being in the world. He's the one that got me out and hiking so often. So rest in peace, Andrew. But let's go back to his work and what Bridget Alex had to say about the thunder beings. So this is what she said. Some images present the figure chest forward, head in profile, and tail feathers parted as if they were human legs. More abstract versions signify thunderbirds with X-shaped bodies, hashes for wings, and hook-like heads. In the article, she shows Stephanie Big Eagle, who is showing a tattoo she designed in protest to the Dakota Access Pipeline that was a Thunderbird. Inhabiting the sky, Thunderbirds are said to act as powerful, life-giving spirits who command storm clouds, which bring spring rains. Their eyes shoot lightning and their wing beats issue thunder. As powers of the upper world, Thunderbirds wage perpetual war against aquatic spirits of the beneath world, often portrayed as malevolent serpents or felines. Humans are caught in the middle of this, says Cheryl Clausen, a professor emerita of anthropology at Appalachian State. For example, some native people explain certain lightning strikes as a result of the rivalry. Thunderbirds shot bolts at trees because their underworld adversaries were lurking in the branches of that tree. A lot of human ritual is directed at deflecting this warfare, setting up safe spaces, explains Clausen, who researches archaeological evidence for native belief systems. The rituals often include feasts and offerings to please thunderbirds and other spirit beings. Many people view thunderbirds as protectors. For the Sioux, thunderbirds are one of our celebrated sacred beings that we work with, said Stephanie Big Eagle. That means the spirits will intervene on our behalf of earthly people, but also expect veneration, prayers, and gifts, including flesh offerings like tattoos. Past these basic descriptions, Thunderbird beliefs cannot be fully expressed to outsiders. In part, this is because non-native people lack the necessary perspectives to grasp the information. To totally understand it, I usually tell people, do you have a lifetime? What you're asking about, you'll have to come live here, says Navajo Nation citizen William Tesoi. The knowledge needs to be seen in the bigger context, in the larger scheme of things. Now, an archaeologist for the Navajo Nation Heritage and Historic Preservation Department, Tesoi learned about Thunderbirds as a child from his grandparents. In everyday conversations, they imparted stories that explained how the world works and came to be. Everything was a story. The corrals where the sun rose, just the whole cultural landscape around you, he says. Thunderbirds figured into these oral histories, and their deeds are embedded in the landscape. Tesoi offered one example about a past battle between Navajo and Ute people. Thunderbird came in a flash and had a sonic boom, he says. Thanks to the spirit's intervention, the warring parties made peace. To this day, the spot is called Thunderbird Perch and marked by a ponderosa pine and fir tree rooted together. Thunderbird knowledge can be considered privileged and powerful. There are aspects of Thunderbird beliefs that Tesoi doesn't share for another reason. The knowledge can be considered privileged and powerful. There are some beautiful ceremonial stories associated with it, but we don't speak of those that have power, he explains. Within Native communities, this information is typically limited to individuals with proper spiritual preparation, and spreading specifics beyond Indigenous people is often prohibited. Representatives from several Native groups, including the Shawnee and Potawatomi, stated that it would be inappropriate to discuss details about Thunderbirds publicly. They recommended ethnographies and other written sources for descriptions suitable for uninducted ears. Archaeologist David Dye, who's not of Native heritage, respects the confidential nature of Thunderbird knowledge. This is based on his experiences working with tribes like the Choctaw, who have helped him interpret archaeological finds. According to Dye, Thunderbird and other sacred stories are not campfire tales meant to entertain. They are more like instructive manuals for working with nature and supernatural forces. The knowledge is secretive because it's dangerous, he says. Still, some conception of native beliefs is critical for archaeologists because they come across relics, which can help discern the ancient roots of Thunderbird traditions. At sites spanning maybe the past 4,000 years, researchers have found Thunderbird images adorning rock surfaces, animal hides, pebbles, and pottery. They've also uncovered figurines, pendants, and copper cutouts shaped like the avian spirits. To make sense of this evidence, scholars rely on information volunteered by contemporary native people, colonial era documents, and ethnographies by anthropologists of the 19th and early 20th centuries. Dye does caution about the veracity of written sources penned by European colonizers and European descendant scholars. These records contain stories told by native informants who deliberately gave redacted renditions full of euphemisms and analogies, and those versions were further filtered through the scribes' minds. As a result, when you sit down to read a Shawnee story about the Thunderers, it's so watered down from what it would have meant to the people who originally told it, he said. But even such diluted data provides clues that help archaeologists interpret otherwise inscrutable finds. For example, dozens of broken ceramic pieces surfaced at sites in northern Michigan near where Lakes Michigan and Huron meet. The artifacts were crafted between 600 and 1600 AD. By ancestors of the Ojibwa. Now, just broken bits no longer than chess pawns, the pieces could have easily been ignored by archaeologists. However, thanks to their awareness of the indigenous, researchers spotted Thunderbird's wings, a serpent's head, and other parts of spirit beings among the fragments. It seems the pieces once formed figurines, made to placate the spirits, according to the American Antiquity Study published earlier this year. Another recent paper in Quaternary International reported a cache of bald eagle bones discovered at a 2,000-year-old site on the island of Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. Drawing on documented Algonquin beliefs, archaeologists contend that the bones were part of a ceremonial feast related to Thunderbird veneration. Tying present practices to ancient remains suggests Native people have honored Thunderbirds as protective spirits for millennia. It's likely Thunderbird tattoos extend back just as long. Needles used for tattooing have been recovered from numerous archaeological sites, and a 1710 AD portrait shows a Mohican chief with 4 Thunderbird tattoos on his face. Those who got tattoos in support of Standing Rock joined this long tradition. I think people knew deep in their hearts, even if they don't understand our ceremonial way, Big Eagle says. They offered their skin to Thunderbirds, asking the spirits to protect Native people against destructive forces. Thanks for listening to Curious Cat. Until next week, stay curious. I love you.